Tom, thanks for being here. I have a question for you. We've had such good feedback from Tom's Park. It makes such a difference in their life. It brings such joy and it brings the ability for the more intellectual type to access a meditative state, grab a data stream from the larger consciousness system, and take off much easier than meditation. Can you tell your audience just a few words about how that can work for them and why the process is so important?
Well, Donna, I don't do anything in just a few words. It's probably going to be more than just a few words, but yes, I can talk to that. The whole reason that I wrote Tom's Park and created that particular product is because I had a group of people that had come to course after course after course, and they were still having trouble with point consciousness. They were still having trouble with going out of body and remote viewing and all the other paranormal things, which have to be done in an intuitive space. They can't be done in an intellectual space. Matter of fact, if you let your intellectual space get involved in it, it'll stop the process. It will make it fail. So you have to get your intellect to sit down and be quiet. And that's what meditation is all about. It's about discipline for your mind. So you can sit quietly and not have a single thought enter your mind for a half an hour or an hour. That takes practice. Most people can only stay thoughtless for about 15 seconds before thoughts come through their mind. And in order to do that for an hour, it takes practice. It takes years of practice. It's a mental discipline. And those people who are very left brain, who are very intellectual, particularly have a hard time with this. It's difficult for them to just exist in an intuitive space with no connections to the intellect. That's hard for them. So I thought of that there is another way that you can experience the paranormal things. You can do all the same paranormal things, from out of body to healing to mind to mind communications to talking with other entities. And all of that stuff is available through another method. And actually, it's the method that most practitioners use because they've done the discipline way, they've come that way. But now, when they use it, because if they use it, when I say practitioners, people that do it for a living, people who do it every day, all day, they get so familiar with it that they don't need to go through the mind discipline anymore. They go immediately to the result without a lot of process. And they do that starting with an imagination. They use their imagination to do it. You're talking to a dead person. Well, you just imagine that dead person, and there they are, and they're speaking to you, and they say, and then it starts. The entity starts to speak, and they're there, and they've made the connection. They don't need a lot of process up front, and you can get there two paths. One path is the mental discipline path, and that's the traditional path that everybody takes. The other path is the imagination path. Most people have the experience of having daydreams, daydreams in which they get so involved in the daydream that the daydream just takes on a life of its own. In other words, what I mean by that, they start the daydream, and let's say George is talking to Susie in a daydream. But now George is having to put words in Susie's mouth because he's making it up. So it's his daydream. George is daydreaming about Susie. So he has Susie doing certain things and saying certain things and so on because he's making it up. But eventually, if he gets into that to the point where he's totally involved in it, he's involved in that interaction between him and Susie, pretty soon he loses his ability to put words in her mouth, and the words that come out of her mouth are her own. In other words, it just gets to a point where the daydream takes on a life of its own, and the originator is no longer creating it all, it's creating itself. It's conversation now. a two-way conversation where both parties are interacting with each other, getting honest feedback from each other. It's not one person that's making it all up anymore. The daydream is just taking on a life of its own. They use all their senses. They get involved in it. They hear, they see, they smell, they touch. And if you use all your senses, your mind is so busy with that that the intellectual part just kind of drops off because there's nothing intellectual here going on. The intellectual part drops off and the story keeps playing. And pretty soon, the story is unraveling on its own without being prompted by the daydreamer. Well, when you do that, you get to the same place as you do with the discipline. You've now gotten to a place where you're no longer in the physical because you're so focused on this daydream. You're now in the daydream. So you're not aware of the chair that you're sitting in or the walls around you. All that stuff disappears. And you're so into this daydream that that fills up your whole reality space. And then the dialogue is genuine from all the people in it. It's not one person making it up anymore. So when you get there, that's the same thing. You've let this reality go. You're completely in another story happening in some other reality. This is the daydream reality, which is just not here, somewhere else, somewhere non-physical. It's all happening inside of mind space, if you like. So then the larger consciousness system can attach to that daydream. Now, the larger consciousness system can play the role of Susie and start reacting as Susie would react. And now you have the person is in dialogue with the larger consciousness system in some other reality, not here. Well, that's defined as an out of body. So you're having an out of body here, and you can take that as a launch pad and go someplace else, or you can just continue with that. It's sort of like the lucid dream, but easier than a lucid dream because the lucid dream, you have to wake up from sleeping. Here you don't. It's your daydream. You can at any time kind of take control over it and say, well, from here, I'm going to launch to some other place, some other thing.
You know, there's so many activities that you've planned. I think I remember Pamela mentioning you were more focused and more excited about creating Tom's Park almost than you were with writing My Big Toe, which is quite a statement. But tell us how many types of activities for different personalities there are and different situations. There are so many ways and so many processes where someone can identify and resonate with a way of using this.
Okay. Well, first of all, there's no way to escape generating some discipline, even if you use your imagination. Some people aren't very good at imagining things. They don't use their imagination very often, and they're just not very good at it. For them to imagine something takes some effort. For these people, I have lots of physical things for them to do, things they have probably done before, like swimming in a lake, like laying on a beach, lying in the grass, feeling the sunshine, riding a horse, riding a bicycle, hiking in the woods. There's just lots of physical activities that most people have done. Therefore, they can bring back memories of what that was like. It gives their daydream a place to start. And they can start with these. They can paddle a boat, they can get on a jet ski, they can snorkel. There's all kinds of things. So as they do that, they're practicing imagining. They're trying to make their ability to imagine more precise and richer. And I give them things that have all the senses in it. If they get on the jet ski, there's sound, there's sight, there's noise, the thing's bumping and junk as it's going through the water. There's touch, there's smell, the water, and there's taste. In order to get all those facets together takes practice. So a person who is very intellectually dominant, not used to imagining, They may have to do this 10, 20, 30, 50 times until they learn, until they build up the capacity to use their imagination in all their senses, all at the same time. But as soon as they get to that point, then the rest of it becomes easy. And it's fun for them to get to that point because in the Tom's Park, there's lots of games and processes and physical things for them to get involved in. There's people there they can get involved with. It's not only involved with things, but involved with people at the same time.
Well, tell us
So,
about how the virtual reality that you created is supported by the LCS and how it is populated with these people that people can have
so,
interactions with.
so I've put lots and lots of things all over Tom's Park that will help launch you into the non-physical. There's yellow benches that if you sit on them, automatically transport you to some other reality frame. There are aquatic creatures that you can run into that help you transport to other reality frames as well. There's just lots of things. There's a lily pond, and there's special things all over. There's a fair clinic. There's lots and lots of things. There's even exercise. You can go there and work out. You can lift weights and dance or do workouts. There's all sorts of things. There's a movie theater that lets you look at your past. There's just lots of activities. There's a hexagon room that then lets you focus on the basics of out of body or remote viewing or communications or mind to mind communications. All these activities that will nudge you in through non physical exploration. If you go there and involve in them, they'll just automatically kind of nudge you into a non physical experience or exploring the larger reality experience. So I have that all over the map there and lots of interesting places and interesting people. So the people are another thing. The people there are much like us. The people there are individuated units of consciousness played by the LCS, which is pretty much what we are. We are individuated units of consciousness, and we're pieces of the LCS. We're just subsets of the LCS. Well, this is pretty much the same way. These characters are all real people. They've got backgrounds, they've got stories, they've got issues, they've got all kinds of things that make them just like real people. But they are all very kind and helpful and trying to make your adventure in the park a very positive one. You won't find them being negative. You won't find them complaining. You won't find any of that. You'll just find very positive, lovely people who will help you out. We have several restaurants there in Tom's Park, and if you want to go out dining in a fine luxury style, you can. If you'd like a companion to do that with, well, you just ask the concierge for you need a dining companion, and sure enough, one will show up. She said, I'd like somebody with these kind of attributes, and there you go. Now you've got a dining companion. So you can have dinner with them. You can go take a hike with them if you want to do other things with them. And if you come back the next time, they'll still be there, and they'll never be busy. You'll never get there and say, "Oh well, Sally, yeah, she's already with a customer." Sorry, somebody else will have to help you because that never happens.
Please also emphasize the safety of this
Mhm.
space.
Yeah, the people are real people. You need to be nice to them. You need to be polite. They're just like anybody else that you would meet. They're individuated units of consciousness being run by the LCS, pretty much the same as us.
Real people and real relationships. Did you
Mhm.
have special permission from the LCS? I know your in-depth knowledge of consciousness and how this reality works and how a virtual reality works. Did that help you in creating this space that is fueled by imagination? We have to stress that this is something where you're developing your intuition through imagination. Were your special qualities particularly useful for this?
Well, in several ways they were. Yes, the one path, you use practice and mental discipline to eliminate the intellect and get into an intuitive space. The other way, you use your imagination to get into an intuitive space. There's just different routes to do that. Both take practice. Many people aren't very good at imagining. Those people who imagine all the time, they'll first time there, they'll just do it perfectly. They won't have any trouble at all. But if you do have trouble, not don't worry. If you just practice, get in a jet ski, go horseback riding, do things, and the more you do it, the easier it's going to be for you to use imagination. I made an arrangement with the larger conscious system that they would pick up all of these daydreams with a data stream and then kind of lead that off into a positive direction. So that will happen. That's guaranteed to happen. All you have to do is get into that story and get so involved in it that the story takes on a life of its own. And then you will end up with a data stream that picks up on that story and then takes you, either completes that story or takes you elsewhere. You have to be open to going elsewhere. So there is some special assistance I get from the LCS. Let's see about the safety. It's a perfectly safe place. There's nothing in Tom's Park that can hurt you. There's no bee that can sting you. There's no animal that will bite you. Now, there's plenty of animals there, but they won't bite you. Now, if you do things that annoy them, well, they might get annoying themselves. If you get between a bear and her cub, then you may be in for some trouble. Don't do that. So you have to be respectful of the animals, but as long as you are, nothing there will hurt you. So even if you were to wander right off a cliff, if there was a sheer cliff, then you walked and stumbled and went right over the cliff, you would float to the ground. You wouldn't crash and die in Tom's Park. Tom's Park will never have a storm that will be so outrageous that it hurts people. It's
You've set
just
the rules. You've made a
I've
rule set for the Tom's Park.
exactly I've created a virtual reality called Tom's Park, and I've set a very strict set of rules for Tom's Park, and those rules govern the behavior of the staff, and they govern the behavior of the people coming into the park, the users of the park. So that's what, when you get the book, it looks like a book. It really isn't a book, it's a course. It's a process of learning how to develop your intuitive side. And we do that with the game of playing with the paranormal, because all the paranormal is on the intuitive side. So you can learn to develop your intuitive side by using Tom's Park. So if you're a writer or a
Yeah.
mathematician or an engineer and you would like to develop your intuitive side a little more, or a manager that works with people, then Tom's Park will help you develop that intuitive side. If you want to do paranormal things in that intuitive side, well, you can do that, but it's not required. The paranormal isn't the big deal here. The big deal is developing your intuitive side to where it becomes reliable and accurate. That's the thing. So, yes, it's a safe place. Anytime, let's say you get on horseback and you just ride in one direction, you go through meadow to meadow and you jump over fences and you go across streams and you just keep going and exploring. And then you realize, oh, I need to get back. I need to leave Tom's Park because my children are coming home from school or something else is about to happen. Then you can instantly teleport back. There are ways and processes that allow you to do that. You go through the process and you're back. So is your horse. You both just come back. You can't get lost there. You can always get back. You just have to, if you read the book, it'll give you the words you have to use that will bring you back.
Speaking of reading the book, some people have said, well, I've read the book, but what do I do now? How can you explain what you need to get out of the book is more of an understanding of the process and getting into your imagination? How could you give some advice
Well,
on after
well,
they've read the
if
book
you've read the
carefully?
book and you know how it works and you know what the rules are, then you ought to start thinking about the possibilities. What are the possibilities? What would you like to do among the possibilities that Tom's Park gives you? Now, it gives you a whole set of possibilities in the physical world: jet skiing, hiking, riding horses, working in the garden. There's all kinds of things that you can do there: swimming, snorkeling. So you have those physical things that you can do, and they will help you develop your skills that you need to build your intuition. But there's also a lot of the things based around getting out of this reality into a larger reality. A lot of different ways, a lot of the paranormal things, mind-to-mind communications, and places you can go to get help, to ask questions and get the questions, get the answers, come back to you. There's even a hotline to the LCS. If you want to ask the boss directly, you can get that. So there's all kinds of ways in which you can connect. There's some spaces there that almost will instantly launch you into some part of the non-physical experience. And there are there are places there that will help your health, that will help with your spirituality, that will help with your questions you have in life. Should I take this job or should I keep the job I have? You'll be able to ask those kinds of questions. You'll be able to look and explore the past. So, in any case, there's all these things. So, what I'd say is that once you read the book and you see all the opportunities that are there, you just think about it. You think about what, of all the possibilities, and there's literally tens of thousands of possibilities that you can get out of this, just like there is in life. In life, there's lots and lots of possibilities of what you can experience, what you can become. Well, it's like that in Tom's Park. And once you see, okay, I'd like to explore this, I'd like to explore that. If you don't have a good imagination, you say, well, first, I just like to develop my imagination and just work on that. But once you get past that point, then it's what are these other things would you like to do? Particularly, would you like to go out of body? Would you like to fly? Would you like to become an animal? What would you like to do? And come up with a little plan. Say, okay, I'm in the park this time. I'd like to try this or that, or to do these other things, and come there with a plan and then try to work the plan. Try to do what you need to do to work the plan. And if it's a really good plan, but doesn't work out the first time, well, then try it again from a different perspective. You have to apply yourself. There is nothing in this world of any sort that you can just go and automatically be bathed in understanding and light. You have to work for what you get. So if you want Tom Spark to give you some very fundamental information to help solve your life, to help you become a happier person, etc., or make you better at your intuitive tasks, like coming up with good plots in a book, good characters, or finding that way of solving that engineering problem. A lot of that comes out of the intuition, or that science problem, or helping you understand math. Well, it'll help you with all those things because the intuitive side of you can help with all those things. But you have to work for it. You have to go there regularly. You have to spend time doing those events and those things that help you progress in the way that you want to progress. So the park is like a set of possibilities and opportunities. So here's 10,000 things you might do. Now, decide what you want to do, what you want to learn, make a plan for doing it, but keep your plan loose enough that you can always change it as you go or add to it or whatever, and then start working at it. This is not something that you do once. It's not like a book you read and after you've read it, you're done. That's not this. Tom Spark is not a book. It's a process for you becoming more grown up, for you becoming more enlightened, for you becoming a more whole person, for you becoming authentic. It's a process to help you grow up. It's a process to help you work on relationships, to work on whatever it is you need work on. It will help you do that. This is something for a lifetime. You could use this the whole rest of your life. And if you use it consistently, like if you spend an hour a week in Tom's Park, as the years go by, Tom's Park will become a major part of your life and a major part of your learning. It will actually help you level up in this game, help you become more enlightened than maybe any other thing you could possibly do.
How would you recommend people use it on a daily basis? How much time would you recommend that
Well,
they use? And after they're coming out of it, how to ground?
yeah, I would say that don't spend more than about an hour a day in Tom's Park. That's probably enough. There's one danger in Tom's Park, and that's what you'll get too carried away with it. And you will live in Tom's Park and stop living in this reality. That's a possibility. Now, I don't mean that literally. You're not just going to die in this reality because you spend too much time in Tom's Park. But what you can do is spend so much time in Tom's Park that you stop being active in this virtual reality we call a physical universe. And that's not good. This virtual reality we call the physical universe, you're here for a reason. You're here to interact and connect and learn and grow. And you need to do that. But Tom's Park can be a great tool in facilitating that learning because it's in a very controlled, safe situation. Whereas out in the big world of everyday things, it's not so safe and controlled. You may say something and stick your foot in your mouth and create a problem that now will take you years to get over or to die down, or may cost you your job. There's a lot of consequences here. In Tom's Park, it's safe. You can explore all kinds of things and do it there where the consequences will never hurt you, as opposed to here where the consequences can hurt you. So it's a place to explore or
Mhm.
access to another set of reality frames in which you can explore. The whole point of us is that we make choices. We're pieces of consciousness and we make choices. And by those choices, we evolve or de evolve the quality of our consciousness. This is like a course that will help you speed up that consciousness evolution. It gives you another whole safe setting in which you can make those choices and grow up. Because no matter what reality you make your choices in, whether it's a night dream, a daydream, or anything else, an out of body, you're making choices. And by those choices, you evolve or de evolve the quality of your consciousness. All these various reality frames are equally real, they're just different. Some of them are more useful than others, but they're just different. But each one, you make a choice there, like in a night dream, you make a choice. That choice not only reflects the quality of your consciousness, but can change the quality of your consciousness. So this just gives you this huge set of possibilities for exploring and raising the quality of your consciousness. And yes, it's a lifetime process. So, people look at it and say, oh, it's only got about 60 pages, but it costs like $80, for 60 pages. Wow, that's an expensive book. But it's not in the same category as a book. A book is something you read and you're done with it. Or maybe if you really, really like the book, you read it twice and then you're done with it. Well, you can read Tom's Park once or twice or three times. It'll help you understand its nature and its rules, but it's a tool that then you can use to develop your intuition, the quality of your consciousness, your spiritual
Yeah.
self. You can do all that and do it safely and with a lot of fun. And about an hour a day is probably enough, but an hour a week would be good too.
There's so much detailed process to it. It's really quite a unique project, quite a unique process. Thank you for detailing it and for presenting it to your audience. It is really an amazing adventure. It was kind of you to go into such detail about Tom's Park. I can tell you myself and from much of the feedback how helpful, how fun, and how remarkable this Tom's Park adventure is. So thank you.
You can add things to it. If you'd like a particular artifact or thing in Tom's Park, you can build it there. You can modify it. It's meant to be your tool. I give you a basic tool to work with, but you can customize the tool to be what you want. So for many people, Tom's Park is like the springboard. It's the launch pad for their out of body sessions. They go to Tom's Park first, and then they go to various places there that are meant to help you go out of body. And then bingo, they're out of body, and then they do other things. So it can be a launch pad,
It
but
is a
it's a
single
tool.
player. It's a single player game.
It's like a
Um,
single player game. Now there are other people there. Most of those are what we would call in game language, they would be NPCs.
mhm.
They're played by the computer. In this case, they're played by the LCS. But then so are we. But if you think of Tom's Park as a game, then they're NPCs. So you will interact with them and grow from the choices you make, the things you say to them, the things you do or don't do. It's it's amazing the possibilities that you have there. So the point is that value out is very much proportional to time in. You have to use it and use it regularly to get out of it what you can get out of it. It's not just a thing you read once and then put on your shelf. That would kind of waste what it is. It's not a book, it's not a story. It's a training course. Like meditation is a training course. You train to meditate. Well, Tom's Park is like that. It's a thing you can use all the rest of your life to learn and grow and develop yourself.
There's a lot of detailed, intricate process built in. Are you going to disclose what might be some of the instant launch into out of body after the person has developed their imagination? What purpose are the yellow benches? Are those a launching pad
Well,
for out of body?
they're a launch place.
Okay.
Now, if you're just new there and your intellect gets in the way, then the yellow benches may not work real well for you because you're not quite ready for that feature yet. But as you develop yourself, then you'll find those will be a lot of fun because they just launch you to a random place, which means the larger conscious system gets to pick the data stream they want to give to you. And they will give to you something that will challenge you to grow up.
Oh, nice.
So that's what you'll get.
That's
So it's
kind of
just a
like Google, I'm feeling lucky.
yeah, exactly. It's a wild card. Yes, like
Okay.
Google, I'm feeling lucky, right?
Well,
You sit
Tom,
down on a bench and the system will take you to an adventure, to a single player game, will basically enroll you in a single player game where you have things to learn. Tom's Park is a rather complex thing, but it's a tool, a lifelong tool, as meditation is a tool. It's not the thing in itself that's important, but it's what you can do with it that is what important. But like meditation, you have to put the time in. You have to spend regular time with it. And then the thing with meditation, it just is what it is. But with the park, you can build things to it. You can customize it. You can make it suit you. You just have to stay within the bounds of safe and never create anything that's negative. Because one thing you will know is that if you find any negativity in Tom's Park, it's because you bring it in with you. That's something you create while you're there. That's your own hostility and your own fear that you're dealing with. Well, that's a good lesson.
so
That's a good place to
you'll be
deal with
sent
your
home.
fears. No, you won't be sent home, but you will have a unique opportunity to deal with your fears
Okay.
there.
Okay. Well, Tom, this has been fascinating, and I'm inspired again to jump back into Tom's Park quickly. And thank you for detailing the the special aspects of Tom's Park for your audience. Thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome.